And finally, I just want to point out one of the most beautiful verses in all of Scripture. If you've lost somebody dear, indeed as I have, I lost a wife to cancer at the age of 48, 15 years ago or so now. And a verse like this just keeps you going. Jesus must reign until he has put all enemies under his feet. The last enemy that will be destroyed is death. My friends, evolution makes death natural. Old earth makes death natural. If death becomes natural for you, if God is the author of death, not we through our fall into sin, it undermines the whole of Christianity. I pray that that never happened to any of us. Well, if this is a lecture you'd kind of like to see again, it's available. As Lucy, she's no lady. Did we have any product sent here, or do we have anything here to purchase? You do have some, okay. Okay, so there's one copy of this. It's probably about all you'd sell anyway after this lecture. But I have one on the hearing ear and the seeing eye that talks about the marvelous complexity of the ear and the eye that the Lord has given us to hear and read His Word. I have one on the Scopes trial, comparing it with the movie Inherit the Wind. I thought it had a cute title, Inherently Wind, a Hollywood history of the Scopes trial. And we sell them as a packet at AIG. In fact, you can get them for less than 40. I think they're 39 now. We've got to get rid of them somehow. And then our magazine. How many get our magazine, Answers Magazine? Good. I like to see so many. The rest of you, well, we'll be locking the doors, and you're going to have to agree to buy it before you leave. Well, if there are any questions, or we just take a break now, how should we handle this?
If they didn't have any real bones for the hands and for the feet, how can they draw all these conclusions about the hands and the feet?
Okay, when you look at Lucy, you see like a metacarpal bone. That's about it for the hands and really nothing for the feet. But Lucy is one specimen. There's at least 12 or 15 specimens nowadays of Australopithecus afarensis. None of the others are as complete as Lucy, which was 40% complete. But when you look at these other specimens, they include bones, for example, that Lucy doesn't have. So if you kind of pool everything together, I think we have a pretty good idea of how she was put together, or this creature was put together. I think we have enough information now from all of the specimens that have been found. We certainly have toe bones, we certainly have finger bones, to know that we have basically something very much like a pygmy chimp here. And that's how we're going to portray her in the museum. But unlike a secular museum, we're actually going to offer references for all of our decisions. In other words, you'll be able to get a reference in the scientific literature why we put the locking knuckles, why we got her walking on her knuckles. You don't see that in scientific museums, but you will in our Creation Museum. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm wondering, do they have any other examples of those hip bones you got stepped on?
I don't know if we have, innominates that are as complete as that particular one. That's what we call that one bone, which is kind of interesting. You see, the only bone in the body doesn't have a name. It's called the innominate, which is Latin for no name. All over the world, it's known as the innominate. No name. I'm not aware of, whether they just have fragmentary evidence, but certainly from this hip and from everything else we see, like the up-tilted glenoid fossa, suspensory adapted upper limbs, everything about this creature just screams the trees. Yeah?
Is it not true that Lucy's bones were found in different locations, even miles apart, maybe different strata?
Yeah, you hear this, that like one of the knee bones was found some distance away. That's really another specimen, and it hasn't been really incorporated into Lucy. What I showed you here are the bones that were reasonably associated with one another that leave me satisfied they represent one individual. But there have been other bones found, and I think sometimes there's a confusion whether a bone found some distance away is being claimed as being part of the Lucy group, that very specimen, or simply representing A. afarensis, which would be fair. But of course, to argue it was actually part of this specimen, that would not be, and I don't think that's been done. Yeah.
You mentioned a couple of times that you thought that this is probably a male specimen rather than a female. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, the pelvis is one of the distinguishing differences between a male and a female. There's a pelvis type we call androgynous. It's very male-like. and then there's a pelvis that's more like the female pelvis. And males can't give birth to young because of the shape of their pelvis. It's more of a funnel shape, and females have a more of an open cone, you know, with a broad opening. It's still a tight fit, as you'll see in the next lecture. In fact, it's too tight, the baby's head won't fit through it. Pretty much brings the whole story to an end. But because of the shape of the hip, some have suggested it could have possibly been a male. Am I saying it is a male? No, I don't think we have probably good enough evidence to make a final decision on that. Any other questions? Yeah.
Were Lucy's bones found in the same formation as the Latilli footprints?
Well, they would argue that the dating that's been done shows them to be the same date, you know, and as you know, you can't date the fossil. There's nothing in Lucy's fossil that's datable because there's no carbon in it. It's rock, and there's no way to date a fossil that has become rock. And it's in sedimentary strata, and there's no way to date